lie! You home destroyer, you're a witch! He loves me more, than my husband. He has been in love with me for a long time.
I was the side chick in my own marriage. My husband was more in love with his female best friend than he was with me. On Valentine's Day, he bought her diamonds, flowers with a note that said, "You are the only woman who understands me," and a brand new iPhone. He bought me a blender, and I did nothing. I stayed quiet. I accepted everything. I accepted it all, until he made a decision that ruined my life. But before I tell you my story, please like and subscribe so you don't miss any videos. And comment where you're watching from. I want to know which part of the world my story has reached. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. Anyone watching from far away would think the wedding was perfect, but they would be wrong. The bride stood alone, her hands folded in front of her, watching her husband dance with another woman dressed in white. That woman was not the bride. She was his female best friend. To understand how a bride could stand alone at her own wedding, while her husband danced with another woman like she was the real wife, we have to go back. Claraara's friends used to say, if someone is too quiet, their life will spoil. And that was exactly who Claraara was. She was soft-spoken, gentle, and avoided trouble. She hated arguments. If she went to a restaurant, ordered jollof rice and turkey, and was served pounded yam and egusi instead, she wouldn't complain. She would look at the plate for a moment, then think, well, I haven't eaten this in a while. At work, when her co-workers dumped extra work on her or blamed her for mistakes she didn't make, Claraara would smile and accept it. She stayed late. She carried the blame. She said nothing, because speaking up meant conflict, and conflict was something she was taught to avoid. That lesson came from her mother. A good woman, her mother always said, should be quiet, humble, and patient, especially in marriage. Marriage, in her mother's eyes, was the greatest achievement a woman could have. So when David asked Claraara to marry him, her mother was overjoyed. Whatever you do, she told her daughter, do everything you can to keep him. So when Claraara entered the relationship and realized she was not just marrying David, but David and Linda, she said nothing. She remained the quiet Claraara. David was in his early 30s and already a senior manager in an oil company. He was sharp at work but careless with people's feelings. He enjoyed being loved by two women. He liked the difference between Claraara the quiet, gentle wife and Linda the loud, confident, exciting friend. David always told Claraara she was the one he loved, but his actions toward Linda told a different story. Linda had met David around the same time Claraara did. Everyone expected David to choose Linda. She fit him perfectly. She was bold. She was confident. She was exciting and full of life. So when David chose Claraara instead, people were shocked. Privately, some people joked that Linda was the real wife, and Claraara was just a backup actress in a very long Nigerian love movie. Marriage is already hard with two people. Imagine how hard it becomes when a third person is added, especially when that third person behaves like the real wife. Linda always found a way to be present. When Claraara and David went on dinner dates, Linda would suddenly appear at the same restaurant and sit beside David like it was normal. On quiet Sundays at home, Linda would call and say she was bored and needed company. When David returned from work trips, Linda would be there to pick him up, saying she missed her best friend. She was always there. Too close, too comfortable. One Valentine's Day, David bought Linda diamonds, a brand new iPhone, and flowers with a note that read, "To the only woman who understands me." He bought Claraara a blender. When Claraara asked about it, David laughed. "You're not materialistic," he said. "You've been saying we need a blender anyway." Claraara said nothing, but inside, something was slowly breaking. Linda also made jokes that crossed the line. "Marriage has really tamed you, David," she would say. "If I lived here, this house would never be this quiet." And I'm not just talking about talking. Claraara would feel sick. She would look at David, hoping he would stop it. But David only laughed. "Relax, babe," he would say. "She's joking." Linda's jokes hurt. But what hurt more was David laughing with her. His excuses, his silence, his refusal to defend his wife. Claraara carried all the pain quietly. She smiled in public. She cried alone. She told herself it would get better. She didn't know that silence has an ending, and very soon she would be forced to speak. It was their wedding anniversary. For days, David had barely been home. He was always busy. Always unavailable. Claraara said nothing. Instead, she decided to make the day special. That morning, David sent a short message. "Happy anniversary." She took it as enough. She cooked his favorite meals. She set candles on the table. She hoped the night would bring them closer again. Then the door opened. David walked in. Linda was beside him. Her arm was hooked into his like she belonged there. Claraara felt her heart sink. David quickly began to explain. They ran into each other. Linda's mother was around. She needed somewhere to hide. "It's fine if she eats with us," David said. Linda smiled. Claraara wanted to say no, but the word stuck in her throat. She swallowed it and said yes. David noticed the candles on the table. "Oh," he said casually. "Were you planning something?" "Yes," Claraara said quietly. "It's our anniversary." "How cute," Linda said with a small smile. "I hope you cooked enough for 3. She pulled out the chair beside David and sat down like it was her rightful place. David picked up his bag. "I'll just take a quick shower," he said. Linda laughed lightly. "Do you want company?" The room went silent. What Linda added, "It's not like I haven't seen it before." Claraara felt her chest tighten. "It's just a joke," David said quickly. "You know how Linda is." And he walked away. Dinner felt heavy. David and Linda laughed, shared inside jokes, and talked about memories Claraara was not part of. Claraara sat quietly, pushing food around her plate. Then Linda tasted the food. "It's nice," she said sweetly. "But next time, you should ask me for my recipe." "David likes mine better." David hesitated. Then he shrugged. "I mean, yeah, hers is better." No offense. Something snapped inside Claraara. "If you don't like the food," she said softly, "you shouldn't have come to a dinner you weren't invited to." Linda laughed. "Wow," she said. Gentle Claraara finally found her voice. I just wanted one evening with my husband, Claraara said, her hands shaking. Just one. David slammed his hand on the table. Why are you acting like a jealous child? He snapped. You brought another woman into our home, Claraara said. On our anniversary? Oh please, David scoffed. You act innocent, but your co-workers are always smiling at you when I come around. Claraara stared at him in shock. Are you serious right now? Linda watched quietly, sipping her drink, a small smile on her face. You always act like a victim, Linda said calmly. Because you're quiet, everyone feels sorry for you. Enough, David shouted. The conflict Claraara feared had arrived. David grabbed a small bag and began packing. Claraara followed him, crying, begging him to calm down. I need space, he said coldly. When he returned to the living room, he said 3 words that broke her. Linda, let's go. Linda's face lit up. She glanced at Claraara. Nothing personal. They walked out together. 3 days passed. David never answered her calls. At first, Claraara was angry. Then she became scared. She barely ate. She barely slept. One morning, the room spun. Her knees gave out. She collapsed. A neighbor rushed her to the hospital. When she woke up, the doctor stood beside her bed. You fainted from stress and exhaustion, he said gently. It's common in early pregnancy. Claraara froze. Pregnancy? She whispered. The doctor nodded. She was 3 weeks along. The baby was fine. Claraara placed her hand on her stomach. David didn't know, and she didn't know how to reach him. Claraara returned home from the hospital with a heavy heart. The house felt empty. To quiet. She was carrying David's child, and he didn't even know. She called him again and again. No answer. Unknown to her, David was staying in a hotel with Linda. They were drinking and laughing. David's phone kept buzzing on the table. Your wife won't stop calling, Linda said, annoyed. She picked up the phone and blocked Claraara's number. David hesitated for a moment. Then he said nothing. Desperate, Claraara asked one of David's friends for Linda's number. Linda answered. Claraara begged to speak to David. Linda said he didn't want to talk. When Claraara said it was urgent, Linda paused. Then she suggested a meeting. David would be at a quiet lake later that night. Claraara could come early and surprise him. It felt wrong, but she had no choice. At the lake, the air was cold and dark. Linda stood by the water, smiling. David is already here, she said. Something felt off. They got into a canoe to cross the lake. Halfway across, Linda stopped rowing. You know David loves me, right? She said. Claraara shook her head. He chose you because you're easy to control, Linda continued. I'm the one he really wants. Claraara snapped. He married me. Linda smiled. I lied, she said. David isn't here. Anger exploded. They struggled. The canoe flipped. Cold water swallowed Claraara. Headlights appeared. David arrived. Without thinking, he jumped in. He swam past Claraara. He saved Linda first. Claraara screamed his name. Her strength faded. She sank. Claraara woke up in the hospital. She survived, but the baby didn't. David stood beside her bed, broken. She spoke calmly. we're getting a divorce. And she meant it. The divorce was quiet. Claraara moved on. She found her voice. She grew stronger. Years later, she saw David at a charity event. She felt nothing. She walked past him, and that destroyed him. Thank you for watching. What did you learn from this story? Comment below, like, and subscribe. We remain Moonlight Folktales, bringing you the most exciting African folktales, modern and ancient.